which has become really a staple for a lot of people who got into the hemp industry the last 3 or 4 years. Kind of like Jack Here's book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, which has influenced, hemp activists and cannabis activists across the world for the last 25 or 30 years. And that's kind of like the Old Testament. And, here comes Hempbound, which is, one of the new gospels of the book that we're writing right now. So, we're still early on in writing this new gospel. And, here's a small little chapter with Hawaii Hemp Conference happening here. And with that, I want to give thanks again to others that made this possible. Functional Remedies, CBDRX, their financial contribution definitely made this possible. So big props to those guys. Hemp Solutions, Hawaii Department of Agriculture, the Hawaii Farmers Union United, Vince, let's see, Prime My Body, Hoban Law Group, let's see who else we got in here. Oh, Hemp History Week. We're celebrating all across the country from June 5th through June 11th. There's over 150 events this year in the Hemp History Week program. So thank those guys. That's Dr. Bronner's, Nutiva, Manitoba Harvest, Hemp Industries Association, Vote Hemp. You can check those guys out online, votehemp.com, votehemp.org. And who else do we need to thank? Nami. She has really been amazing here, working with all the locals and the panels, and me and Doug and Lizzie and the hotel, and yeah, just thank all of you. We really, really, truly appreciate it. And without further ado, I'm going to bring out my buddy Doug Fine to close out the day.
Great day. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Morris, Lizzie, Nami, everybody who volunteered, and of course, all the sponsors. It's really a delight. You guys already know, and I don't want to embarrass them, but when you have somebody like Senator Mike Abbott here who's staying, listening, taking notes all day, it's an amazing thing. Vince as well, coming from a different island, and all of you taking your time, looking around at my friends, and every hemp event I've ever been to, I've learned something. I'm supposed to be teaching you, and today, the holy crap, I didn't know that came from Ed Lerberg. I didn't know about the pure glucose sugar extraction. I knew you were taking sugars out for plastic purposes. I did not know that it's going to be our table sugar one of these days in a friendly hypoglycemic way. So this is why it's so important to get together and talk about these things. And we are in full prep mode here. Part of the semi-underlying theme today was, darn, come on, Hawaii, let's just get those fucking, but in truth, it's a blink. If you're thinking about getting into this industry now, and this is what I'm trying to make this a how-to today by quoting Dolly Parton. And for those, by the way, I hope you can see this. The screen is only on this side, so if you want to see a little bit better there, feel free to come down to this side, and there are plenty of chairs on this side. Branding, marketing, getting an LLC together, or even better yet, a co-op. These things take time. Soil building. We just heard about soil building. Dr. Lee's info was really interesting to me on this 7 weeks to fight over remediation for some serious contaminant cleanup is just incredible. But still, if you start today and say, I'm getting serious about preparing for the hemp industry, believe me, you'll have a permit before you're ready. It takes time, okay? I'm going to tell you a little bit. This is, even though I want this to sort of be a semi-love fest in the sense of encouraging people and cheerleading, I'm going to sort of air what it's really like, the positive and the downside, okay? So I tried to find the most complex, confused graphic I could find on the internet to describe the last week of hemp that was going on in my life for the last week and my partner's lives in various places. So I'll kind of skim through this. It's not necessarily vital that you sort of digest all this. I'm just trying to explain as a first-time sort of entrepreneur after decades of journalism what we went through. Okay, so first of all, I don't even know where to start. Let's start with the Vermont group, Family Green Vermont. Okay, while we just have two really lovely cultivar genetic lines that we feel really great about, like sort of a miracle, beginner's luck kind of stuff. We also recognize that there is, and it's a holistic, balanced type products grown outdoors, fertilized seeds, fertilized flowers we provide in our flower products because we believe everyone's happier when dating. Vermont, so we decided to add a third genetic line to our product line, which meant that my colleague Ken had to get to another state and drive across some real prohibition states with a lot of cannabis genetics in the back of his truck, fully legal, but not really wanting to make farm bill nuance arguments to Nebraska state troopers, if you know what I mean. So that went great. While he was doing that, we were having conversations with the organic certifying agency in Vermont, which was, well, even though Vermont's an incredibly productive state and a great hemp state, how about this for hemp regulations? This is the hemp regulations in Vermont. Send us $25 and have a good time out there. Grow as much as you want, and we don't even THC test. Why would they? You know, we do our own third-party THC testing so that we're compliant and can ship inside and outside of the state. And they're going to start instituting voluntary THC testing next year in Vermont. But because Vermont is so wide open, they technically, to some views, don't qualify as a Farm Bill compliant program, which must be a research program. So the Vermont folks, the certifying agencies were saying, we're concerned that we can't give you USDA certification if you're not 7606 compliant. And then we said, well, wait, we are. We have a memorandum of understanding with Sterling College, which, if you read the Farm Bill provision on hemp, it says you must either be part of a Department of Agriculture research program or the institution of higher education program. And so I made that point, and I was a little bit surprised. They really want things to work for you in Vermont as a farmer. They said, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we're good. So we were all these near nightmares, and then there was planting. And would it stop planting, and would it stop raining in time for my booked tickets to Vermont to be out there pretty much for 3-4 days straight, where I don't remember very much sleep, and get this year's crop in the ground. And yes, the weather smiled on us again for the second year in a row, which felt really great. So I'm just giving you a sense of this last week or two. Meanwhile, I mentioned earlier that I'm consulting for the Colville tribes in Washington. Oh no, this is all happening at the same time. My poor family, it's like, I'm on the phone at really weird hours talking to Czech Republic saying, what do you mean the Germans haven't got the phytosanitary certificate in because we need to get these seeds into the Colville tribes to plant. They're preparing the soil, they're ready to go. Organic as well, by the way. And because in Washington, the tribes are limited to importing seeds, so they weren't able to use our Vermont genetics, unfortunately, or other domestic genetics. So that's why I picked that graphic for this slide. It's not easy to be an entrepreneur, and it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Hemp is, like all farming, and like all work, it's hard work. If you want to be good at what you do, you got to be passionate about it, and you got to just not think that there's going to be a lot of time off, especially in the initial few years. I'm proud to report, though, that we have pretty much paid back last year's expenses in our Vermont project, which I'm told, especially in any entrepreneurial activity, but especially in agriculture, is not a small feat. So I'm fairly proud of the fact that the company was able to pay for some travel for me to get to in there for planting this year. Let's see, next slide, please. Thank you. So last season was really a bit of ninja training. By the way, you'll notice Senator Gabbard was talking about when he visited the Hawai'i research crop and how tall that cultivar is. We call, as I mentioned earlier, one of our cultivars, we call it Samurai, because there's just no stopping it. It produces north of 1,000 pounds of seed per acre. If it has a downside, it's that the fiber is so strong that you have to have an extremely experienced combine operator in order to be able to do the fiber part of the harvest. I don't know if I'm proud to say that I learned how to drive a tractor in a combine last year, because in truth, what I came away with every time I left the fields last year was, I would rather go back to like machetes and mules. Like the amount of time you spend dealing with combine issues, you know, on an 86 John Deere at least, is almost equal to the amount of time that you're actually operating in the field. And I'm proud to say also we did power our machinery by biofuels last year, not by petroleum, not by hemp yet, unfortunately, because we didn't have our first harvest, but by sunflower oil, Vermont-grown sunflower oil. Here, let's go to the next slide, please, if you don't mind. Thank you. I'm sorry, this isn't quite working. Appreciate it, Derek. Oh gosh, can we please give a round of applause to Derek here today, who has kept this show on the road. A very, very talented group. Did you win a Grammy producing for Stevie Wonder? Or did you just get nominated?
Yeah, we won.
Yeah,
Wow,
right.
right.
Oh, more than one, I think. Yeah, he's a talented guy, really. Well, thank you, Derek. Okay, so in spring, you think everything is going to be beautiful. You plant and the seeds sprout, and for everyone here who's a farmer, you know that feeling. It's like some kind of moral justification, deserved or not, when the plants are coming up. The dream, especially those of us that are for spiritual reasons or saving the planet reasons, are hempsters, you know, like Senator Gabbard is, and I probably like everybody in this room. We want to see this crop succeed. So thinking that you're part of this, there were 800 permitted farmers in the U.S. last year, federally compliant farmers last year, and I and the two other families in our group were part of it. We planted 23 acres, and everything looked great in the spring. By harvest time, one of our partners was gone. He couldn't hack it. It was too much work. He was used to, I learned a ton from John, and I'm so appreciative of him. Like, we went, like, what he asked for is this sort of parting relationship, we doubled it, because I love the guy, but what he's used to is planting alfalfa and knowing, before he cuts it down, how much he's going to get paid for it. How much is it? Jackpot! But at least he knew, right? And the fact that we didn't start generating that market research revenue, which is what you call sales if you want to be federally legal in hemp right now, because the Farm Bill says you can conduct market research, but you can't call it commercial sales. And I was walking with my good friend Winnie in her Kentucky farm one time, and I said, isn't this just ridiculous? She was talking about how they pre-sold their whole harvest, and I said, isn't this ridiculous? We got to call it market research? And she looked at me and she said, Doug, it is market research. And she's right. I don't really know what the markets are going to be for this year's harvest. One surprise on the positive side is fiber. Fiber is sort of the lost child of hemp, because the flowers everyone was talking about today is extremely valuable for the cannabinoids, nutraceuticals, etc. The seed oil is a nutritive superfood you can get in any grocery store. Senator Rubin's store in town, I'm sure. And the fiber is thought to be low value. We got a couple of calls. Most recently, we got a call from a Canadian distributor that I believe wants to ship the fiber to China, that asked if we could provide 50 tons a month of hemp. And I was sort of like, in 2026, maybe, because I mean, we harvested, I don't know, we really didn't focus on the fiber last year. We harvested less than 5 tons of fiber for the entire season, and they were asking for 50 tons regularly. And so fiber is coming on as a hot market for things like, let's get rid of the styrofoam, easy things that you don't need high quality fiber for. Believe it or not, for supercapacitors, these next generation batteries that I think we've talked about, does everybody know what I mean when I say hemp is supercapacitor? Show of hands if you do not know what I mean. Okay, so let me explain. This is amazing. Look this up when you get home. American Chemical Society study released at the American Chemical Society. Study was University of Manitoba. And I've interviewed many of the people that were part of this study, because they were shocked about this. They were not hempsters. They were researchers dispatched by the Canadian government, funded by the government, to find use for this fiber that wasn't being used in their rapidly growing seed oil crop. And they just threw it into this study they were doing about nanotechnology. And cut to the chase, if you look up hemp supercapacitor, American Chemical Society or whatever, David Midland was the guy who conducted the research. At the nano level, at that 1 carbon thick level of hemp, the structure is such that it does what a supercapacitor does, which is quickly store and transfer energy. It's not your battery storage. When people hear about this and they shorthand it as your next battery is going to be made out of hemp because it stores energy, it's not actually what it does. The capacitor is a different part of the process than the main energy storage, but it provides better conductivity than any other known source at 1/1000th of the cost. It was one of those studies, and it's not the only one that's come out in hemp, where they have to put a little special sort of explanation at the beginning of it because the results so shocked the researchers. David Midland's a really clean-cut guy. I mean, not that hamsters can't be clean-cut. And I was sort of like, dude, were you surprised about this? He goes, I was so shocked as it just kept on down the line outperforming anything else that's been done in nanotechnology. So all we got to do is get the word to Elon Musk, and we're golden, right? So next slide, please. So one of the things that I learned about this, I'm very proud of the fact that we had a multi-ton harvest. I'm very happy about the fact that people are happy with it. We're getting really nice results on the value-added hemp and hemp product that we did. The reality of it is you can't just say we're going to do this product and we're going to bank on it in year 1. We're slowly building a brand. One of the things I have to do whenever we have team meetings with our family green hemp is put the brakes, or attempt to put the brakes, because then we're all operate on consensus, but put the brakes on the other families in the group who want to say, oh, now we can do this, that, and this. And I'm sort of like, hey, we're getting good feedback on this initial product, and I think Lily might appreciate this. We get good feedback on this initial product. Let's stick with it and get the word out, And you have to, go back to Dolly Parton on this first, better, different. We couldn't compete with large-scale hemp producers that were producing thousands of acres. For the television show I'm doing about hemp, I'm filming my good friend Rick Trojan, who's here today. One of his operations grew something like 1,500 acres in Colorado last year. The amount of cannabinoids and CBDs that they could produce, if that's what they want to do with that flower, is such magnitudes more than we could do in 23 acres that we had to be different. So what we're arguing is that we are a top shelf craft producers. Relate this to your Hawai'i, to your matna or your coffee or your moringa here in Hawaii. That we're a top shelf producer doing something that others are not doing, which is lovingly growing outdoors fertilized flowers, which is unusual. Some people are catching on to this idea. Fertilized flowers as opposed to just female flowers, which is more common in the hemp cannabis industry. And infusing the cannabinoids in the seed oil, the nutritive superfood that's legal everywhere, you can get it in any store. Infusing it in the seed oil from the same flower. And something, I can't explain it, I don't want to use the word alchemical, something is happening from that process that's giving our product a different result for some people than any other cannabinoid-related product on the market. So we feel have succeeded in being different at a small scale. And I don't know if you've seen our booth out there, but we're pricing it 100 milliliters at $45. If you see it in a high-end spa, it can easily retail for $150. So we're trying to keep the price somewhat for the people, that's our game plan, and we're sticking with it. The only other thing that we're doing, besides providing viable seed as allowed under federal law, which is a really big source of market revenue research for us. The other thing is, I think I showed everybody here earlier, I might have put it away, the hemp protein meal. When you take a seed press, which by the way, seed oil presses are not very expensive. You could get one here, a really high quality one, and this is a side note by way of advice. I wouldn't cut corners on your equipment investment. It's not about one country being better than another country. It's about you get what you pay for when you buy industrial materials. It's something that I'm really discovering. And we have a really awesome used Danish seed oil press. And it's for those who haven't seen it, it's kind of a screw. We call it a screw press. And the screw comes in and it mushes the oil The oil drips out, right? This gorgeous omega balance, high in magnesium and selenium. But it kind of pushes out like Play-Doh this protein meal, which we just had tested, came back, we're really pleased, 34% protein. What that has is it has Old Dominion Hemp of Virginia, who has contacts in the high-end horse feed industry. People in the thoroughbred industry trying to get an edge that are interested in this. And so that's our market research on that. We're moving our seed protein to Virginia for horse feed. Why not human feed? We're delighted to do human feed. We just didn't go, there's only so much you can do for each year. Have a long-term game plan. I eat it every day. My whole family eats it every day in our yogurt and our shakes, but we didn't market it as human grade this year. We did it in a commercial kitchen, but we didn't go for the certification because we just didn't have the time. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm really sort of scared about increasing acreage this year because of what a lot of people have talked about today, which is we don't really know what the markets are. And it's considered lunacy in traditional business standards to do anything, and let's just stick to agriculture, to grow a crop and not know the buyers, right? Yeah. So when the Colville folks in the tribal project that I'm helping, they're being extremely bold and I think wise in not cutting corners in their investment for their first crop. We're doing 60 acres in Washington with them this year. And the tribal council, the chiefs of the tribes, are saying, is there anything you can show us by way of, just anything, by way of pre-sale? Because they're so used to, they do apples on the reservation, they do grass of various kinds, and they're like, so like anything? And I'm like, well, just don't worry, we're 5 months away still, you know. But in truth, we do have a lot of inquiries, and we're charging value added because we're organic and tribally branded. So we do actually have approaches for seed and fiber for people who want to be able to say, this seed protein or the seed oil that's in this product is coming from tribally grown hemp. But it's terrifying to think about. Let's say you're getting 1,000 pounds per acre on those 60 acres, so that's 30 tons of hemp seed we got to move. On the other hand, do the math. $5 a pound is what we're thinking about asking for our pre-sales. In fact, that's what we're negotiating right now. So that's, do I have that right? 150 grand gross for the tribe just on seed if we're successful in cultivating this year. And that will thrill the tribal council, which, you know, as the person they're paying as a consultant, really working hard for. I really love going in there too. It's such a rural community and there's real poverty. I mean, there are people there that invited me over for dinner and what they fed me was what they shot that day. That's what they were eating. It wasn't beef cute or locavore, it was because it was what they could afford. And hemp is going to help the community a lot. Next slide, please.
Doug, John from Ananda Seed said that they're sitting on 46 tons of seed right now.
Wow, I mean, waiting to move it.
Yeah.
Wow. Here's another advantage of growing organic. You know, the organic discussion is an important one, and but I'm an inclusive guy, and I'm not here to divide or declare that only one thing or another should be done. But here's a fact. In Canada, the buyers are not buying non-organic hemp anymore. Their warehouses are overflowing. They are only buying organic hemp because the demand is so high. So it is worth the expense, and it is more. So if you have to buy organic fertilizer at scale, at a large acreage, it's not cheap, but it's really worth it. Yeah, so we actually did wind up going back to machetes for some of our fiber harvests last year. That's how strong it was. We were constantly pulling out the blades and sharpening them. These are skills that are not the funnest for me. I like milking goats. I like going for swims with, fish, dolphins and stuff. So my expression, whenever somebody caught me on a mechanized, it was more like, please don't die, please don't crash, this is expensive. But you got to do it. It's part of scaling up. Next slide, please. I'm trying to paint the picture that it ain't easy. Is it getting across? I love this drone shot of these super tall plants. So when I say thick vertical, is in the digital age, the farmer's job is no longer just farming. That's like the first stage of the process. It'd be like today, if you're saying a farmer's job is to grow and harvest a crop, it would be like saying an auto manufacturer's job was to import tires, and you're done, with your truck. There is so much more to it in terms of logos, in terms of branding, in terms of business relationships. So, an example of scaling up this year. We're not prepared, after all we've invested in this company, to bring on farmers as full partners, even though our eventual goal is to be a co-op. We'll have a buy-in where any farmers, but we want to treat the farmers that we're adding who are just planting and watching and loving lots of hemp all year. So what is that sweet spot? What is that friction point that's fair to these folks who are growing the crop but aren't investing any blood, sweat, and tears other than that, and they didn't help develop the genetics, and they didn't help develop the brand. So these are issues that we're dealing with. But what we mean when we say think vertical is every step of the process that you're keeping on your farm or in your community at least. You know about this, right? The magnifier effect, is everybody familiar with this? If you're keeping $10 in your economy, it's really like keeping $100 in your economy, because that money is being utilized within the community rather than outside of the community, and that's where it lies in the future. I don't say tear down Wall Street and line up the bankers against the wall. I say, I'm not doing business with those guys. I'm doing business with my community and my region, as much as even our labels on our bottles. We work, and even our bottles. We work with a Vermont, Southern Canada and Northern Vermont-based bottling company. So really, really important thing for the future that we're talking about here. Visualize, for the first time that I can think of, farmers, small farmers that actually are pillars of the community, that can invest in nonprofits, that can support the arts, that can help contribute to good schools. We think of farmers, in their overalls, not making a lot of jack, because that's usually how it is, and that's as we know, that's what we're all out to change. As my good friend and one of my mentors, Eugenia Bogalandro, of a organic hemp called Fat Pig Society in Colorado, she told me, we'd rather have 1,000 farmers growing 10 acres and making a living than one farmer growing 10,000 acres. Yeah. So I'll run through this part really, really quick here so we have time for questions, which is what everybody here knows, is that we're in the 9th inning for humanity here. So even though I'm an inclusive kind of guy who doesn't want to declare that my modes and my ways of doing things are the only way, I mean, that upper middle slide there, that was a 150,000 acre wildfire in my backyard that scared really, I've been living with bears for a long time. I like bears. The biggest black bear boar I've ever seen came in a panic out of the hills, this was in front of my family's eyes, leapt our goat corral fence and started just killing our goats. And he was just in a panic. He was a refugee from climate change and didn't even eat them at the time. Split, left us with dead and dying goats. I'm sorry for the graphic nature of this. So my sweetheart gets the kids inside. I go outside, try and deal with this. We dealt with it. And then that night, the bear came back again and killed all but one of the survivors. And so then he went on to kill 31 of our neighbors' sheep, and then Fish and Game came and got the poor guy who was just homeless and scared. So the climate change isn't a joke. And then, so we have this fire. Then, a few weeks later, Noah had 40 days and 40 nights. I had 41 days that I couldn't get across my river that I need to cross to get to town. And this is some of my neighbors who tried. So we're not kidding around about this here. And I try not to be anything but diplomatic and respectful and kind when I speak to people about this. But if you come up to me and tell me you are starting an endeavor in this planet, any endeavor, my first question to you is it regenerative? And if the answer is yes, we got more to talk about. If the answer is, well, we're thinking maybe someday, but for now we're going to use that. That's not good enough, because we got a planet that's near the brink.
Yeah.
This is the Hemp Goat I actually have with me here today. I'm really proud of this. We talked about it earlier. It's important for Hawaii, I think. I've been speaking with Emily and others about processing. And one of the processing units that I would love to see in Hawaii is about 100 3D printers printing industrial parts regeneratively here on the islands. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like. If we could go back one slide just for a quick second. Thank you, sir. That one right there. That's, you guys have seen, most of you have seen 3D printers, but this is what the coils of hemp mixed with corn look like. And then this is what, you know, you program on your computer, a car part or whatever it is. This is how 3D printing works, and it can really be a regenerative future. Thanks, Derek. Next slide, please. So we have talked, I think, really, the panels today, as always, I learned so much on soil. But if you look, and you know Kimo was here today, if you look at what he has done, this was 150 years of sugarcane, and this is 1 year of regenerative farming by, not hemp yet, but sun hemp and other awesome crops. The difference is literally night and day. I couldn't help but show my appreciation with the kiss of his work there. And then, of course, you know, this was actually Bobby Pahia's farm on recovering cane, but a shout out, Vince was kind enough to make the introductions to Bobby, who's now like one of my heroes along with these other guys in these photos. But Vince, what he does in his backyard, 6-figure healthy soil, you go, that soil, it's like the dankest, darkest, most beautiful stuff you're ever going to see, and it's in a cycle that he's been doing for decades. It's an amazing thing. It's doable. We're not in dreamland here. This is real, people. This ain't a dress rehearsal. Next slide. So I'm a little bit frustrated about, we've talked about it enough, I'll gloss over this, I'm a little bit frustrated about anything other than go grow hemp. There's nothing that you should be doing to stop it. And one of the things that's total BS is the USDA at this moment's position, and they'll get there, this is kind of like, not enough people make noise about it, for feeding that protein we can do it with horses. You can now market your hemp for, and I gotta thank Morris about this. Morris is on the cutting edge of this kind of stuff. Beyond his immediate business interests, he's the first guy who said, Doug, what are the nuances of what you can do for animal feed for hemp? And I said, I thought we're good on that, aren't we? He said, look into it, dude. And our farming partner who had sold sunflower protein for animal feed forever has told me, no, we're all good, it's fine, no one's gonna care. Actually, the current status on the federal level, different states have different rules, the federal rules on hemp for animal feed is you can feed it to animals that humans aren't gonna eat the animals or anything from them. So on our website, for family, if you go to Family Green Hemp is where you can get it, our products. If you go to our website, under the hemp protein link, it says all these things. It's like, got a cat, dog, guinea pig, horse. These are all fine, but you can't feed any animals that you might eat. And then I have a video of me feeding my goats because, I'm encouraging subtly people to, where did we say the DEA microphone was? I'm subtly encouraging folks to not follow those stupid rules.
Yay!
And I already told you about this. So this is my partner, John. I probably learned more about large-scale farming. The reason why I can be a viable consultant to the tribes and to help and partner with people out here, which is where my family is ready to relocate, by the way, is because John Williamson taught me how to do large-scale agriculture. I was a decent small-scale goat rancher. I was competent at gardening. It is different. It's similar in many ways and similar in essential ways, but when you're I'll give you one example. How many people here have ever used a seed drill to plant a crop? Anybody here use a seed drill? Okay. Seeing Gabriel stands up, I gotta take a minute to honor him. When we say he's founded Seeds of Change, I hope you guys know what Seeds of Change is, and if you don't, look it up. The pinnacle flagship organic seed company for decades. I can't tell you how many thousands of Seeds of Change seeds I planted in gardens before I knew who Gabriel was. Thank you for being here. But anyway, for those of you who don't know what... So, what a seed drill is, it's a little thing, it's a little unit, it's complicated, it drags behind a tractor, or in my world it would be a mule. And the seeds fall out at a regular rate, and then at a depth that you program. It's not in the simplest form, in any way that I've used it or filmed it in other places, it's never been very mechanical and digital. It can be, but it's very analog. It basically, you set a release mechanism to know exactly how many seeds are going to be released per acre. They're only coming out of tubes the spacing that you want. Let's say you want to plant your hemp at 14-inch spacing, which I found actually is a pretty good spacing for multi-purpose hemp. You can program that, and then the depth. It will plug it into that depth, and then the disc will come behind it, because for hemp you want seed contact. A moment here to plug tomorrow's field visits. This is the kind of thing we're going to be talking about more extensively tomorrow. A lot of great visits, but I'm really especially excited for the end of the day, 4 p.m. visit to Hula Farms, because not only is it helping veterans with PTSD get their lives back, and it's real, it's not a joke, but we're going to do everything but the planting there tomorrow. So any questions about hemp? Emily's like, phew. So maybe Greg will let us, I hope Greg will be there, Greg Smith, if he's still available, maybe we'll have one of these. But the only thing we can't do with a seed or a seedling is stick it in the ground, but we'll tell you everything else you need to know in order to get in the ground. Not just me, we've got a lot of knowledgeable hemp people that are going to be there. But point being, John taught me a lot about hemp farming, and then he couldn't do it anymore. He just gave out. It was a different model. He's a slightly older fellow, and yeah, he just was like, I didn't know that I was trying to create an industry. I thought I was planting and harvesting, and it's been a good lesson for us as we discuss and interview new partners to know that you got to do every job in this process, from planting to weeding to marketing. Storage was a big deal. Oh my gosh, you've got to get that seed down to the right moisture content for it to store well. It's not a hobby. Is that message getting across? This is life. This is a real life. Next slide, please. Processing has been discussed at length today, so I won't say too much about it today, other than it takes more investment than anything else. Less for flour and seed than for fiber, but nonetheless, get good equipment. This is an actual action shot from Ed's Pure Vision. He spoke earlier today. This was Ed having me feed. Notice he makes me wear the silly suit. Feeding in the fiber into his processing unit, and that's us in a freezing maple sugar shack in Vermont processing the hemp, the bottles that we have here for market research, not sale, right? Market research here today. Next slide. Okay, last thing. Please love thy neighbor. If you can't love thy neighbor in general, which I think most of us here do. I learned more about aloha from 5 minutes in Hawaii. You know, it's a beautiful culture here. But here's another reason. You need your competition. The biggest processors in Canada just conducted a study that found that, I'm going to ask you guys to guess, what percent how many American homes out of 100% today have any hemp in them, hemp products in them at all? Shout them out. What do you know?
100%?
0.5.
I would have thought 15 or 25%. Yeah, so in the US it's 0.5% and in Canada it's 1%. We have 99% market share to grow. No, we're all in this hemp bubble, right guys? We're living, breathing out right. Let's take it to Hawaii, team. Nobody knows about hemp yet. Nobody knows about hemp yet. Statistically, there's no competition out there yet. There's no saturated. Don't let someone tell you there's market saturated. This market ain't saturated.
Doug, the Hawaii acronym for hemp is Hawaii Ecological Money Producer.
I never hear that. Next slide. Yeah, so this is a similar thing. You don't have to be an expert to get into it. Be willing to make mistakes. Next slide. Yeah, we've talked about this a lot today. There's a lot of growth in this industry. Even all the restrictions that you hear us jumping up and down in frustration about, the industry's growing 25% per year. And there's no end in sight. The Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance invited me to give a keynote up there, and they invited me into their members meeting, right? And they had to do one of those things where they tacked a second chart next to the first chart to be able to chart their growth curve over the next 10 years. And all they do is seed. All they do is seed. They don't really do fiber or flour. They're starting to learn to pivot. from American Ingenuity, and they're pissed about it, by the way. So, point being, this industry is unstoppable. Doesn't mean you're going to get rich in the first few years, but I will tell you this. If you get into hemp as one of the first-year permittees in Hawaii and stick with it for 3 seasons, come and call me out if you are not making a viable living from it after 3 seasons. God bless you all. Thank you for having me here tonight. We have time for one or two questions? One or two quick ones? I don't know how we're doing the time. We'll take a couple.
I appreciate you sharing with us about healthcare and complete plenty of sources it's wondering how that compares with
Yeah. That's a great question. So, the question was, does hemp protein compare with meat protein and other vegetable proteins? So, terrific question, given that my sweetheart is a vegetarian, and we have had, thank heaven, 2 extremely healthy boys, so healthy that I'm like, they're worried about how strong they're getting and my relative discipline ability. That her prenatal food was, the general sort of convention wasn't eat a lot of fish oil, cod liver oil, and that. It was hemp seed oil for her. So the protein is absolutely there, and as John Brulak, who is Nutiva Organic Seeds, great company, as he taught me, hemp is very high in, besides the perfect omega balance, it's very high in minerals that it's hard for vegans to get. My sweetheart's not a vegan, but if you are a vegan, magnesium and selenium aren't that easy to come by in some diets and some foods, and hemp is extremely high in mineral content. So I personally like to eat a little bit of meat, but no, you can stay healthy on hemp protein and a balanced diet.
I'd like to suggest made marijuana illegal because of THC, but it's proven that it's not an addiction. Yet we have all these other things that are up now illegally prescribed drugs that are totally dangerous. But hemp yet is being classified the same. Yet it's not even a classified drug. But my point is that the reason that they're doing this is just to keep us from the nutritional value. Because the fact is, it's not addictive, but complete protein. But the things that are addictive are illegal, and such as the oldest and the most strongest addiction, which is, I believe, blood, which is that you eat, it's actually the blood you're addicted.
I think that I've heard KRS One, the rapper, say that too, and I think there's probably some truth to that. We out of time? Got a question? Yeah, go ahead. About 12 grand. Yeah, and then of course there's shipping issues. So in other words, if you want to order one of these monster decoricators that Ed's a dealer for from Australia, the ticket price is like what, 300-400 grand, but the real price is 600. It's like a lot of money to ship something that big from Australia. So you got to be figuring in shipping prices, but in the area, and the seed oil presses aren't that huge, the single oil presses. So the size of an outhouse or something like that. Maybe 1 or 2 more.
I have a question. For a person that's like an upcoming entrepreneur, wants to get into the business, how do we go about getting the hemp licensing that you mentioned?
Great.
Is there guidance how to go through the steps?
And you're a resident of Hawaii?
Yes.
So what I would recommend doing is staying in close touch with a couple of entities. First of all, the Department of Agriculture will be developing the program, and it's been through a lot of ups and downs that we've talked about a bit today, and so I won't get into too much detail right now, but we're really optimistic. I got my ear bent by a couple of people kind of in the know today that maybe there will be so fortunate as before the June 30th funding deadline that we may see the first step, which is a request for proposals for seed, be authorized. But if not, pay attention to what's happening in the Department of Agriculture's hemp department. The second thing is your legislator, your state representative and senator, stay in contact with him or her, whichever island you're on. And the third thing I would say is, forgive me because I'm a member myself, so I'm a Hawaii Farmers Union member myself in World Life, but I would say join the Hawaii Farmers Union because these guys are on board with hemp. We are on board.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. One more. How about one more? I thought I saw my hand up.
HFUUHI.
HFUUHI.org.
.org.
One more question? Thought I saw one. Oh yeah, go ahead. No question? Yes, no? Anyone? All right, well thanks everybody for coming out.